Now, we've been talking about today's Supreme Court ruling, which could pave the way for hundreds of convicted murderers to start new appeals. It's about joint enterprise, where the individual was prosecuted despite not inflicting the fatal blow. The courts ruled that it had been wrongly interpreted for around 30 years, and I've been talking to the Belfast solicitor Patrick Madden, who says a number of his firm's clients will now want to appeal. I spoke to him earlier and started by asking him what he thought of this ruling.
My reaction is obviously we would welcome the judgment today of the Supreme Court. It was, the decision is momentous in the fact that it overturns a 30-year-old rule, the doctrine of joint enterprise in a criminal situation, and therefore it has to be welcomed. It's an error put right by the court after so many years.
It's not a black and white situation, really, about when someone is or when they aren't responsible. I mean, it's obviously debated legally at great length in cases, isn't it?
Yes, it's a difficult doctrine, and it's been wrestled with by the legal profession for many years. To put it simply, it's a doctrine where a person who assists or encourages the committing of a crime can be held as legally responsible as the person who actually carries it out. And in more serious case, in case of murder, an individual can be convicted of murder if they foresaw that person they were with would possibly kill or inflict serious harm. And I think what the Supreme Court has said today, that's not right, and that someone could be convicted of murder if they merely foresaw that the person they were with might commit a crime. So, in essence, they had to actually intend to help carry out or encourage the crime that actually resulted. So that's the difference, in that you had to actually intend to encourage the other person, the principal offender, to actually carry out that crime. And I suppose I'm really on here to explain what miscarriage of justice have taken place as a result of that error.
Well, I was going to ask you, obviously there are local repercussions here. There are people behind bars who might feel that they shouldn't be behind bars, and presumably there are defendants currently before the courts who can now employ different arguments to defend themselves.
Well, that's right. In fact, there's actually people who've been convicted and have already served murder sentences and have already been released. In fact, there's one particular case. It's a case of Michael Timmins. We're going to be consulting with the family to launch an appeal. It was the murder of two British Army corporals in Belfast. That was in 1988, so it's as far back as that. In that case, our client Michael Timmins, he was in the area, but it was known actually locally as the Casement 3. None of the three were actually accused of direct involvement in the murder. None had direct knowledge as to the actual perpetrators. None of these defendants actually had any paramilitary connections or previous criminal records, and they all maintained their innocence and still do. So that's just one example, which is a long time ago. There's a recent case, or more recent than that, of Aaron Wallace. And that was in the case of the murder of Michael McElveen. That was a Catholic schoolboy, and it's a similar type of case.
We've heard reaction on a national basis of the drive-by shooting incident which involved Letitia Shakespeare and her best friend Charlene Ellis. I mean, that's nothing to do with you and your firm, but she's voicing sort of worries which might be reflected here as well about joint enterprise and victims who've gone through the process of Law and Justice now having to sort of go through it all again because the whole case will be revisited. Is that just something they're going to have to put up with?
No, I think it's understandable for victims of crime to have concerns, and the concerns are valid. However, this is not going to open floodgates of cases. It really is a specific part of law, which is really a correction of the law. In fact, some commentators have said that this doctrine was justified because it tackled the increase of gangland violence, but in fact it hasn't actually led to any decrease of this at all. But it is understandable that some people may have concerns that this might open the floodgates, but I don't think that's the case.
Patrick Madden.